everybody. Welcome to the SOS Small Business Success Podcast. Glad to have you here with me today. We're all about building brands to help you survive while developing you to thrive. And we've got a great guest here today that's going to help us see how we can continue to build our brands within our industry and how we need to thrive and what might be preventing us from really being in that thrive mentality right now. So I'm your host, Bonnie Bonadeo, and speaker, coach, author, podcaster. My focus is always around leadership, communication, speaking, and branding. And although I say it's for small businesses, I really cater to the beauty industry and the health and wellness of our industry. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and as well as YouTube for all of my podcasting. Now, I focus in on a particular, what I call the 5 anchors for success, and that's sales, operations, mindset, marketing, and education. And today, we're going to touch on all of this because your business has to have some foundation to be able to survive. And because we're a business that is licensed by your state, and a lot of those rules and regulations are changing. And so my guest today, Tamra Johnson-Sheely, is going to guide us in some of the challenges we're up against. She's going to give us some solutions. She's going to tell us what we need to do to be in action to save our industry. So let me tell you a little bit about Tamra. She is a lead organizer for the Concerned Beauty and Barber Professionals. She also is I spelled the name advocate wrong there, lead advocate for Politics, Beauty, and Barber. And there's going to be a call to action for you guys to join this organization in the end. And I'm going to let Tamra tell you more about herself because she has really done some amazing things just from a business standpoint as a woman in business. But no matter what I've known about her for many years is that she takes it right back to our industry because she comes from our industry. She's still very active in pieces and parts of our industry, but she has a very big intention of being able to support not only what we're doing here in the state of Georgia, but across the nation with some of the changes. So Tamra, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to let you take on this conversation of what are we up against, where do we need to go, and how can we help support the challenges that we're facing in our industry here. And I'm going to stop share and let you take it over.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bonnie, for the opportunity to speak with those who are just as passionate as you and I are about this industry. I mean, the beauty and barber industry, this is my heart. I've done a lot of things politically, but it all brings me back to the industry, to the licensed professional, this next generation. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share and to talk about, making sure that we protect the license and the industry. So again, my name is Tamra Johnson-Sheely. I am the lead organizer for the Concerned Beauty and Barber Professionals. I am the lead advocate for Politics, Beauty, and Barber. So we are a 2-in-1 initiative where we address the need for higher continuing education standards in the industry. And we also address bills and policy state to state that affects beauty and barber professionals that affect our industry. So we've been around since 2011. And we started tracking some very hard numbers in 2015. We couldn't put our finger on it until we really started to see where these initiatives were coming from. So just to give you an example, I'm going to read from our website. In 2015, we tracked 308 bills. In 2016, we tracked 343 bills. In 2017, 409 bills. 2018, 355 bills. 2019, 266 bills, 2020, 658 bills, 2021, 784 bills, in 2022, 431 bills. In 2023, we're still working on the numbers. But that just shows you the magnitude of policy initiatives across the country that affect our industry. And the sad part is too few professionals actually know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't know because these things are happening in our state legislature. And this is an industry where, we're artists, right? We love what we do. We love our clients. So we're not ones to be on the front lines. We're not the ones that are very politically active. So sadly, these bills are being initiated across the country, and the beauty and barber professional, the ones that are doing the work, the workers, and I'm going to talk about that in just a bit, they're the last to know what's really going on. So this industry has been infiltrated by those that have an agenda. And if the beauty and barber professionals don't step up, Bonnie, it's sad to say that we're watching our own demise.
It's true. So can you give me an example of what some of these bills are that might be that have and might still be impacting us?
Well, I remember I want to say back in like 2015, 16, but over in Texas, there was a bill that there was so much controversy around the use of a straight edge, and there was this infighting in our industry around the using the straight edge versus using the clippers. I mean, you know where I'm going. I'm trying to remember. I just remember how it was such an uproar of in our industry around using that straight edge. And so those are the kind of things that happen. And again, why beauty and barber professionals aren't at the table, have a seat at the table, is it again, it's sad. But what happened most recently is SB 354 here in Georgia. SB 354 is a bill that passed in the Georgia legislature that now allows individuals to operate blow dry styling salons with no licensure. But this was state number 6. There were 5 other states where this bill was actually initiated. So we have policy now where unlicensed, uneducated, barely trained individuals are now able to shampoo, blow dry, and style hair in 6 states. So that's the most recent piece of legislation where, again, we weren't privy and it passed. And this is why we're having this conversation today, is we really have to start organizing as an industry, and beauty and barber professionals really have to start working together. Our schools, they have their own agenda. Our manufacturers and distributors, they have their own agenda. Beauty and barber professionals just want to work. And again, going back to that word work and workers, the bigger agenda is to create an industry where we're not, and I don't want to say not professional, but what I want to say is that they see us as an industry where there's an opportunity to just have people work versus people be independent, run their own salons, and have their own businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know that, over the past 15, 20 years, could be longer than that, but, from my recollection, is trying to just eliminate licensing overall.
Mhm.
And is that still a threat?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The more they're able to pick us apart, which is where they've been most successful, the more they're able to pick us apart and devalue and deregulate and roll I mean, think about this. I mean, what industry can you roll the education back and you can really say it's a profession? I mean, education equals professionalism, you know?
It would be a job.
Yes. It would be
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. At this point, we are still licensed in all states, right? So this hasn't happened yet as of 2024.
No, that hasn't happened yet. And
Okay.
prayerfully that never happens. But rolling our hours back and creating initiatives like SB 354
Mm-hmm.
door,
It's a
it
start.
opens the door to more and more people saturating this industry, providing services that have no real formal training. Ultimately, this is about health and safety. This is about sanitation. This is about infection control. This is about keeping consumers safe. And our legislators, again, most of them, they want to create a workforce, which we understand. We want to have people working. We need jobs in this country, but not at the expense of someone's health and safety.
Or not being trained properly. I think is the case. I know that a lot of times these bills and the initiatives get pushed through because they think that our license is a barrier to being able to be employed.
That's exactly what they say. Call it a barrier to entry.
Barrier to entry. Okay. And then they compare us then to other industries of 1,000 hours, 1,500 hours to be able to be a licensed, say cosmetologist, full on hairdresser as another level, or aesthetics, nails. I mean, it's, barbering, it all kind of like trails into that. And then they compare us to like, oh, but a paramedic only needs this many hours, which from what I understand is a lot less. And so they've already reduced hours in a lot of situations.
They have. And, again, they do compare us to the paramedics. But again, when you're touching people to the extent that we're in constant contact with we touch everybody. So there's a level of training that has to be, with our education, that has to be repeated, right? I mean, in school, I remember doing something over and over and over and over until it became second nature for me. And that's what it's about. It's about that continual training and that education, so that it is second nature to make sure that you're keeping it becomes like you don't even think about it. You just know you're doing the right things to make sure that people are safe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about it from a standpoint of, if there wasn't a license, what would that look like for our industry? What would that look like for people wanting to go into it, for schools? How does that impact us?
Oh, I try not to ever think about that, Bonnie. I do. I try not to ever give that any thought, because I think the thought of it just, can you imagine your restaurants not being inspected and just anybody could, open a restaurant and there's no formal training for people? Education to me, again, I try not to think about that, Bonnie. I can't even go there with my thinking.
I see your point, and I'm just trying to think. There's, I mean, even back when I was in cosmetology school, we had the basics. There was color, there was perming, there was straightening hair, there was cutting hair. I mean, these are still very much the basics of it. But today, the level of learning, to be able to meet customer needs and demands is huge. So, we're still, even if somebody goes through cosmetology school from our salon perspective here, because, that we have a salon called Intrigue Salon here in Atlanta. Even if somebody comes out of beauty school, even if they're licensed coming out of beauty school, we still have to spend about a year training them to be able to do and provide the services to meet the needs of the clients. So if there's no license, and say they do or don't go to beauty school, because I think that beauty schools would still exist, the salon now is taking the majority of the burden of training somebody to be viable and effective in doing these services. And that's overwhelming to think about for the salon industry.
So what if when they come to you, they have nothing, right? At least they have some formal education when they come to a salon like yours.
They have basics. They have some basic skills. They understand, the color theory, they understand some structure and cutting, but they haven't had an enormous amount of application experience. And that's really what we're providing for them, is having them see repetitiveness, do repetitiveness of certain skill sets in order for them to be able to stand at that chair with a client confidently and perform various services.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know in the state of Georgia that we can provide apprenticing, and so we do have some apprentices within our environment, and it is 10 times harder to train them up on some of these skills, because again, like you said, the beauty school process and the licensure piece is because they've consistently practiced things that make sense before getting into the actual business or career of that.
Yeah, we can't. That's why it's so important for beauty and barber professionals in this season to be organized, because if we don't, again, we're literally watching our demise. In other industries, your attorneys, your doctors, they're organized. They're not messing with them. They're not picking on them. They're licensed. They're not picking on them, but they're picking on us. And we have to come together and do something that we've never done. This is an industry, in school, they have barber battles and hair battles, and we've been competing, but now we have an enemy. And if we don't come together and work together and be intentional about it, it saddens me, because I know I was a nail tech for 18 years. And I can just tell you, it was a wonderful career. It gave me an opportunity to be I was a single parent. So I was able to, my thing was always, I want to take my kids to school and I want to pick my babies up and I want to have dinner. I want to do homework. I wanted to be mom. And this industry allowed me to be just that. So I really feel some sense of obligation. I spoke at a beauty school just yesterday, and just, this next generation, they're excited like I was excited when I was in school. They're excited. And how dare we, those of us who've been in this industry and know what this is, how dare we leave them a mess? So I feel like those of us who have had an opportunity to enjoy what this industry offers, I feel like we owe this back. And sad, it's sad because so many professionals don't see, they're like, well, I'm good, I've gotten mine. But it's not for you, it's for the next generation coming behind you.
Right, because we were all very clear that in 2020, when we went through the pandemic process, that we're vain and people wanted their hair done.
And yes, they did.
Yeah, so we, whether we were classified as essential or not was not the important factor. It was that we were aware that people needed their hair done. They wanted their hair done. They take pride in how they wanted to look, and it was important for them, to be provided this service. And we all figured out how to be able to do that. And I think that was the only time that I remember, the cosmetology department ever communicating with us. So I think what you're challenged by is that we don't know some of the things that are happening, all these bills that are coming through that are trying to create demise for our industry. How do we get communicated to? What's the source of the communication for us to be more aware of what might be happening and how we can get involved?
And that's where our organization comes into play. I mean, we have a tracking mechanism and we've tracked these bills. We know every state what's happening in the legislature specific to our industry. We have the information, but what is it if you don't have the people to actually do something about it, that are serious about doing something about it? Because the one thing we don't need to be is unorganized. Again, when you show up at that Capitol, you have to show up as a force to be reckoned with. When you show up and you start talking to legislators, don't talk off the top of your head. Let's be clear about our messaging and what we're trying to do. And I don't like chaos. I don't like confusion. I don't like being, again, we work as a collective inside of our organization. And we don't do any of this on social media. This is not for, somebody to watch. We don't need spectators. We need participators. We need people that will get in the trenches and let's fight for this license. Let's fight for the integrity of our industry. And many of us are, again, many of our professionals are just sitting watching. And
Yeah, and
it's
I think
sad.
that there's a certain amount that are aware of the challenges we're up against, but I think that there's, like you said, from the worker side of things, we are very unaware of what's going on. So, these bigger organizations and bigger businesses are calling the shots. So, I mean, for this SB 354 to pass in Georgia, somebody was behind it. Who was behind it that said it's important that we pass this bill and allow people to shampoo and blow dry and style hair without having a license?
There's a lot of tentacles. There's a lot of entities that see this as an opportunity to, again, create a workforce. They want to open up their blow dry shampoo styling bars, and they want to make money, and they see the opportunity to make money in an industry, again, that's not organized. It doesn't care enough to say we're not going to let just anybody in. So there's a lot of players in this game. Our strength is when we show up at the state capitol, and we have relationships with our legislators, and we work as a collective. That's when, no matter who comes and tries to take something from us, we know how to fight them back.
Yeah. And do you plan these type of events um, throughout the country, just in Georgia where you're located right now? How would people get involved in going to visit their legislators and having this message in a sense?
Yeah, we've done other states. We actually did Tennessee a couple years back. We've done other states. We just have to have willing participants. I'll go wherever. I'm an empty nester. So I'm not like, I can move and go and do as I please, and we'll go wherever. We've done Georgia. We had a rally here. We just don't have enough. In our organization, we have sprinkles of people across the country. We don't have enough to make the impact. Our goal has always been to have 8 in each state: 2 cosmetologists, 2 estheticians, 2 nail techs, and 2 barbers. The key to that is what's happening in one state. We have 2 cosmetologists in every state. We can always, because what they do is they don't just introduce legislation in one state. They sprinkle it around the country, those that are, again, infiltrating our industry. So when we have eyes and ears across the country, then we can have an impact, because again, what happens in one state is happening in another state. So we really have to have our 8, and I call them our leaders, our generals in this army, 8 in each state. And what I do is I try to get schools around the country to participate in our organization, and the students are our soldiers. Those are the foot soldiers. But those of us that are leading the charge, those of you that are leading the charge, again, I've always just needed 8 in each state.
And is this something that then these 8 people that you're communicating with them, what's on the up and up, where some concerns are?
They know they know all the bills. They know what's coming down the pike. Oh, absolutely. They know everything that's happening in their state.
Okay. Yeah. And is that part of your membership, or is this kind of above and beyond the membership?
No, this is what our members do. Again, all of this is done internally so that we're organizing and we're staying on guard. Oh yeah, this is our members. This is the work.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me some of the things are you aligned with other organizations in our industry and associations
So we have
that are fighting this battle?
Well, we've actually had kind of been our own force. We have a federal alliance with OSHA and Georgia Tech. We had an alliance partnership that started back in 2014, but now we are ambassadors, and we get up-to-date information. our members do from both of those sources. Plus, we have affiliate organizations that give us great information about health and safety. We just stay on the as much get as much information as we can around health and safety. But again, the political piece, that's a separate part of what we do. That's why, again, we're a 2-in-1 effort. Politics, Beauty, and Barber. Again, that's where we track and we monitor and we stay abreast of any bills that are in our state legislatures.
Anything active right now that we need to be aware of?
Well, session starts around the country in January. Texas is a state that has they only do legislatures every other year, and it's the odd year. So Texas will be convening this coming year. So we're watching. Most of our states, many of our states will pre-file legislation. So we'll get some updates early November, if there's something coming. But by the time January's here, it's like the horses have been let out and we're off to the races. So we don't want to wait. We want to be in position. We want to kind of take a bird's eye view of like what happened last session, because sometimes some of these states have rollovers, and these bills that were presented in 2024 this year may roll over into 2025. So we just have to understand, and that's part of our training too, is understanding how your state legislative cycle actually works. Like, for example, Nebraska is a unicameral. They don't have a separate House and Senate. They're one chamber. Again, Texas is a state where you have they don't even have a legislature every year. So we have to understand the lay of the land. Georgia has a 40-day legislative cycle. So there's so much that we don't know, and that becomes the initial education. We don't want to get to January figuring it out, because at that point we need to be in position.
And it's still very much a state to state issue across the board. Do you foresee, or have you seen some movement for us to be able to have a national license and not be so limited by the states and what they're doing?
Well, I think we got to get at least some control on the ground before we even can consider what this could look like from a national landscape. And that's why we haven't been able to address anything national, because there's so much going on the ground that it's like we got too many fires. I always call each state a battleground. This is a war on our industry. So we have all these battles. At least if we get some, a lay of the land and understand how these legislatures work, and we're able to work, then we can kind of move into the national scope. But right now we just have a mess all across the country.
Yeah, I can see that. And I could see that there's just been an inconsistency in our commitment. And part of that is just because our industry is very fragmented today. It's not like salon owners are the only source of this workforce environment. You've got all these independents and all these suites and all these individual people now that are just not getting the message. They're just not aware of what we're up against. And then it's hard to be able to communicate as a whole, to be able to protect ourselves. And you're right. One state eliminates a license and it will be a pattern.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we have to be on guard and we have to work together. And you're right. I mean, these salon suites, and I remember the culture where everybody worked in the salon and we looked out for one another, but that doesn't really exist today. But we got to figure out how to bring our industry back together. And again, organizing and having an umbrella where we all are committed to, again, the integrity of our industry is where I believe it begins.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about then the membership for politics, and I'm gonna put this screen share up here so people have the link to be able to go on it. Tell us a little bit about what they get, what this membership looks like, how they can support some of these efforts.
Yeah, so you can join us, Politics, Beauty, and Barber, the Concerned Beauty and Barber Professional. So we do what we call Monday School. And Monday School is every second and fourth Monday. It is 1 hour, 11 a.m. Eastern. And this is where we, again, get that up-to-date information from our affiliates, our alliance partnership. We get up-to-date information, and we get from inside of our organization, that is our continuing education. So you will get CEU certificates for the first half hour of our Monday school. The second half hour is where we actually dive into politics, beauty, and barber. And again, that's where the strategy is. And we start to make those connections and catch up and keep up. But I work on this full time. This is my full time. So I give this everything that it needs. I'm at my desk constantly talking to members and engaging. Again, yesterday I spoke at a school, and I'm available to speak anywhere at any time. So again, Monday school every second and fourth Monday. We have some nice vests for our barbers, and we have some smocks for our ladies. So we have the gear for those that like a little swag. And there's different things on our website that we offer as far as membership, but ultimately it's again about making sure that we are prepared when session starts and making sure that we are protecting that license.
And every member can show up on these Mondays.
Oh yeah, it's every second and fourth Monday, and what they miss is actually recorded. So if they miss a Monday, our members actually can go back and watch.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you said there's different levels of membership then
No,
available
just
there?
one level of membership, just one level, member advocates, and then there's the student advocate. So it's a discounted price because our students are focused on finishing school, so it is a less intensive approach to being a member.
Yeah, of course. But that's where it starts too, is
Mm-hmm.
they have to be aware, that being in a licensed industry, has definitely some big benefits to them. But if we weren't a licensed industry, I can't even imagine, like you said, you don't even want to go there.
Mm-mm.
I can't even imagine what chaos that would be, and the impact it would have on the salon business, but also the client. I mean, I can't imagine a client wanting to be like, oh yeah, it's okay if you're not licensed. I think they respect the fact that we have had some formal training and that we have to maintain this licensure and in some cases, continuing education hours.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But it's still being challenged every day, no matter what. And I think positive changes that we can progress as we move into the future makes sense. Like one of the big things that I really appreciated was being able to separate a cosmetology license from a hair designer license and speed through some of the processes a little bit more. That's been helpful, I think, for our industry.
Mm-hmm. So as long as we keep it intact and we don't let others tell us who we are, we know who we are. So I think that's where the power lies.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, what else do you want to share with us tomorrow?
Well, I just want you to really consider those of you that are beauty and barber professionals or students. Please be a part of what we're doing. This is organizing. This is the next level, of making sure that we maintain the integrity of our industry.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you were here today. And I know how important it is for you, to continue to keep sharing this. And I'm certainly going to check into the membership because I wasn't quite sure exactly what it entailed, but I love that it's really providing, information and updates of what's going on in our industry. And I'm going to encourage all of you guys too that are listening and watching, because we're on all the podcast channels, but this is also on my YouTube channel, so you can visually see it. But I'm going to say politicsbeautybarber.org. This is Tamara's mission. It's her vision. It's everything to be able to bring us together and protect this license, that we call, our career and our prosperity of keeping our industry intact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, you guys, go to politicsbeautybarber.org And as always, you can find me here. I'm doing like 2 podcasts a month at this point. So you can find it Spotify, iTunes, wherever your favorite podcast is. I'm sure I'm there. Also go on to SOS Small Biz Success Podcast on YouTube. Or you can follow me on any of my social links at Bonnie Bonadeo. Tamara, how else can people get hold of you other than through this website? Is there another place that you want people to follow you?
Politics, Beauty. No, everything is through the website, politicsbeautybarber.org. Yes, follow me there.
Made that very easy and simple for us. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, I'll see you soon.